Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. I'm sorry to say that Coach K isn't here today. She's at our conference of Sex Down South, but I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy to talk about a topic that even I struggle with sometimes on a weekly basis. It is from burnout to bold steps. I don't know about you, but after COVID, and the 2 years of lockdown, it has just sometimes been a rat race where you're running around trying to do everything. And sometimes, especially as a woman, we try to make sure we get everything done. It's like, shh. But we get feeling exhausted. And you're like, well, why are we talking about burnout and you're on an intimacy show? Well, it's connected. Because to have really good intimacy in all aspects, and that is the physical, the emotional, the communication, the sexual. You need to have energy. But when you burn out, you can't have energy. And some people say, well, maybe I'm not burnt out. I'm just going from here, there, this, and that. What we're going to talk about is different signs of being burnout. And it could be a simple thing as, I know, for a day or so, I couldn't find my keys. And so when I'm starting to get burned out, I tend to have things all mixed up and stuff. So that's one of my signs of burnout. But I have someone who I recently met, a wonderful therapist that we have some things in common, but she's an expert in this whole burnout. Her name is Patrice Brantley, and I'm so excited about having her on this show. But before we get into that, of course, we always have a nonprofit. And the nonprofit for this month is fosteringhope.florida.org. It's a great nonprofit because it is a nonprofit that deals with children and fostering children. And it's a great way of community, of helping. And I know we're talking about burnout and you're like, oh my gosh, why, burnout? And then there's this thing about fostering hope. Well, one thing about burnout that can help relieve it is having hope and helping with children and giving back. So definitely think about fosteringhope.florida.org, a great organization. So anyway, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we are going to talk about how burnout, from burnout to bold steps, how if you're feeling burnout, what you can do to boldly step out of it. We'll be back in a moment.
Life can be overwhelming sometimes. We think we are a burden to others. We think that it's better to hide it and suppress our hurt, but it's not. As Cave Coral Therapists, we will provide you with quality, confidential counseling services in a relaxing and peaceful environment. Talk to a professional today. Book an appointment on www.cavecoraltherapist.com or call 239-565-6921.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, Patrice. How are you doing? You gotta unmute. You gotta unmute. Okay, there you go. Yes.
All right. Hey, everybody. I am Patrice. I am so thrilled to be here. Thank you for letting me spend this time with you.
Yes. So from your background, you've overcome a lot of trauma, childhood struggles, even as an adult. Yes. How did that lead you into working in the mental health field?
So as a child, I experienced and witnessed my mother and my aunt dealing with domestic violence. And this became my push to no longer sit in the closets of pain, to let women and men speak about what it is to be abused and share these skeletons. And as for the children, to no longer hold those things back, talk about it. There is help out here. I always tell people there is happiness, healing, and wholeness, but you got to first start talking about it.
Right, definitely. And one of the things we talk about here on the show is intimacy. How do you define intimacy?
So my favorite part of intimacy is when I love to break it down and say, in to me, you see. I love that because it tells me that there's more than just a physical part. It's that emotional connection, the conversation. You see me in all of me. You know how people love to say, oh, I don't see you as this. No, you need to see me as all of that, because guess what? It's going to make me know that you truly care about me. You can't say you care about me and you see me, but you don't see a Black woman. You can't say you see me, but I'm just one row. I'm a full person who's complex in many ways. That's true intimacy.
That is true. And the true part of really seeing the person as a whole. One of the things many of us struggle with sometimes as a whole is stress and burnout. And you are an expert in helping people get out of burnout. What is your backstory of burnout?
So my backstory of burnout comes from two different spaces. The first one was my first career in education. I did it for nearly 20 years. And in that experience, I went through what teachers literally were going through now. Before COVID, I had my own COVID experience where there was not enough staff, not enough materials, things of that nature. What did it look like for me? It looked like me running into overdrive. You know, people always think of burnout as I'm so exhausted I can't get up, but it was literally overdrive. It's like driving a stick shift car in the fifth gear all the time and then burning out the clutch and then getting mad and going, why is the car not moving? Right. It became many sleepless nights or going to sleep and then waking up just totally exhausted. It became overeating. It became literally poor communication. It became lack of care of self. It became, oh my gosh, everything under the book. Poor sex drive. It became, I'm isolating because I don't want you to see me in this way because I'm wearing the cape of being a superwoman. Mm-hmm. And we tend to do this as women. We don't want people to see that I'm having a moment. That's what that backstory looked like.
Right. And I think also, I was just thinking about it also when I was in this school system and I was really burned out. You took on all this ownership and feeling like everything was your fault and you had to do everything and you couldn't ask for help.
No, it's my experience. Your experience is exactly right. Because for so many of us, asking for help is not an easy thing to do. It's I'm taking on this classroom to make sure that these babies get what they need. I'm taking on these clients to make sure I give them all I can and more. I'm taking on, but I'm never taking off. I'm never pausing to stop to say, hey, I need to refill my cup. And so many times, especially if you're in a caregiving field, such as nursing, mental health, teaching, something where you're constantly pouring, you forget, man, I need to pour into me too. I need somebody to come and fill my cup of joy up.
Right, right. I think for sometimes people think it is a sin to stop and do nothing.
Here's the key though. It's not a sin to stop. If you go back and look in Genesis, even the Lord took a day off, not because he was exhausted, but because the actual thing was done. We have to know that it doesn't have to be this, I got to run 7 days a week to make it look good and sound good and be exhausted and be no good to no one. That's the push. And what I think about it is when I think about my burnout, I think about how I ballooned from 200 pounds to, as I like to say, to 337 and climbing. Mm-hmm. And it got to the point where I was so busy running, I wasn't taking care of me. And it ended up with me being in a cast for a year because I had did such a poor job of not taking care of me, but caring about everyone else that I totally forgot about me.
Right, right. So what you're also saying is sometimes when people burn out, they're running. And sometimes the universe will slow you down where you have to.
It's going to make you slow down.
Exactly.
It's going to make you slow down. But the good thing about it is once you realize I have to slow down, that gives you time to stop and evaluate. It gives you time to stop and say, what's working for me? What's not working for me?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
how can I get it to work for me and not harm me?
Mm. Yeah. And to overcome also that fear.
Oh my gosh. I think that was the worst part for me, because it was the thing of, they won't see me strong enough.
Right.
They won't see me as that superwoman anymore. But
Right.
here's the key. When I finally stopped, and I'm going to just go a little bit into my story, what made me stop. The day I got so, I wouldn't say upset, but so frustrated, that I remember saying to my kids, I said, hey, you know what? Not doing this today. I took these little wonderful children, I took them to the rest of my teammates, and I dropped them off. And I said, you know what? You all have an amazing day. We'll try this again tomorrow. And I left. Now, I had never been that educated. I was the one, as one of my former principals said, that's Steady Eddie right there. No matter what happens, she's here. She has it. She's going to make it work. But what happens when Steady Eddie gets tired?
Right.
And when it got to that point, and I walked out that day, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. Here's the first thing I had to do. I'm going to be honest with you. I went with a guy friend of mine. We went to Chili's, and he said, so now what's the plan? And I went, huh? So frustrated. I just wanted for that day, right? I'm just like, hey, listen, I don't want any baby back ribs. Just give me my salsa and my nachos, and I'm happy, right? And then he goes, you made this big bold step. What's next?
Right.
That one statement took me on a complete journey of really resetting my life through the POWERUP model. And with that model, I had to learn. You got to learn when to pause. And a pause doesn't mean being still. A pause means I got to take a moment, step back, look at what's going on with me. Was I always really frustrated, or was I focusing on emotions? Was I just focused on the foolishness around me? Or was I really doing, like I like to say, did you focus on the facts of what's happening and then stop and say, this is how you work this out. This is how you change it up. That was the biggest piece for me. I think that was my biggest aha. It's okay to pause. Many of us don't think it's okay. Like you just said, we think it's a sin.
Right. And I was going to even relate that even Jesus took time out for himself. He did not, when he was on this earth, did not heal. And he had a human form. He didn't heal 24/7. He took time for himself. But like you were saying, sometimes when you have to stop, sometimes people don't even know what to do because they've completely lost themselves.
That was the most beautiful piece for me. When I finally learned to pause, and pause in a healthy way,
right,
I rediscovered the things that I enjoyed.
Right.
I discovered that, you know what? I don't mind doing a little quick walk. I don't mind having a conversation that's a fulfilling conversation, not a foolish conversation. I don't mind taking this quiet time for me. Because so many times when we're so busy running and burning out on every end, quiet is the most deafening sound, because you're saying, I can't have quiet. Quiet doesn't allow me. It allows me to see me, but then I don't like the me I see. That's why I'm so focused on what is that true piece for intimacy. Because here's the key. I'm burning out. For a lot of people, their burnout is, I'm burning out because I'm trying to be that superwoman for somebody. I'm that Superman for somebody else. Or I'm trying to make sure that they will not label me a label from society. Right. Do you know how many men I've heard over the last, I've been doing mental health for 8 years, who've said to me, I work like this and I grind like this because I don't want society to label me as lazy, unproductive. And then when we start talking about what does that look like to have a moment of pause for a male, doesn't mean I'm sitting in front of the TV on Sunday, every Sunday, but it means I'm taking a moment to say, you know what? Hey, babe, hey, boo, maybe today I can't get this task done, but I can get it done another time.
Right.
And pause may look like, hey, maybe I need to set that boundary of I'm turning my phone off at 9 or whatever that time is so that I can refresh.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I just love how you mentioned the word boundary.
Oh, that became my favorite word.
Yeah, that is key. So, you know, and when we in here, we talk a lot about relationships, but sometimes when you're burnout, and you keep going, then if you just sit on the couch, maybe your partner doesn't understand what's going on. And if you haven't had a good talk or conversation about boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing that you said about laziness. Yeah. I mean, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't sit here because my wife's going to think I'm not doing anything. Yeah. But it is really important. Yeah.
And a boundary, and I think this is the big piece that we tend to forget. A boundary doesn't have to be rigid. A boundary is one that can go with the flow, and it can have a little bit of stretch room, as I like to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also, those are boundaries that we need to have conversations about. A lot of times when people talk about dating, and I'm going to roll back to your intimacy piece. When they talk about dating, they talk about the no-goes. They talk about I might deal with this. But do we talk about boundaries? Because sometimes we don't. We think it's, especially for us who like to date, we love to get out here and say, you know, I can hang out with them for a while. It's all good. But then when there's no boundaries there and all of a sudden you don't feel comfortable, you can't get mad and blame the other person. You never talked about it. Mm-hmm. Boundaries are a beautiful thing. We have to learn to see the beauty in saying yes to us and not to everything else.
Can you say that again?
Boundaries are a beautiful thing. We have to learn to say yes to us and not everything else.
Right, exactly.
And that was a piece for me because I was so used to pouring that yes to me felt strange. That was the what you yes to me. And then here's what I learned. When it started that journey and I started saying yes to me, I started to have to use a word people hate. No.
Right.
My 2-year-old showed back up. Let me tell you that way.
Yes, yeah. People have a hard time saying, I work with so many clients who have a hard time saying no. And I was just thinking that maybe also I'm learning that I should really maybe teach them how to say yes to themselves so they have the power to say no to others.
Here's the beautiful piece. No is not a curse word. It's a statement of self-love. That is literally the statement that I put up in my wall. And I keep it there because it makes me remember, hey, you know what? Saying no to this particular thing that I already don't feel good about, let's be honest, because we all have those moments when we're like, somebody asks us to do something and you get that pit in the stomach feeling and you're like, I don't want to do that. But because they asked me, I'm going to do it. Or we know it makes us feel some kind of way, it doesn't align with our value system, whatever that looks like. And then you realize you go and you do it, you get upset, your mind's in turmoil, and then yet you're saying, I should have never did it. Mm-hmm. Once I learned to pause, I realized my power in regaining my time. As the Auntie Max would say, I reclaimed my time. I learned that my time was just as valuable. Just like when you go to the medical doctor and they have you sit and wait, his time is valuable because whoever he's sitting with for that moment, their concern is important too. He doesn't want to shortchange them. So why do we volunteer and shortchange us? Then I had to learn a positive thing. I had to plan. And the big thing with planning, a lot of people think, well, I got to do SMART goals. SMART goals are great because we think about it in that 30-day thing. But I don't look at the 30-day plan. You know what I like to look at it as? A snack size Snicker. Okay. That's exactly how I look at it. Yes. Didn't you saw the look on your face? Yes. You know why I say that? Because a snack size Snicker gives you an opportunity to go in and say, I got a small goal that's going to be specific. It's going to be measurable. It's achievable. It's relatable. It's time sensitive, but I give myself wiggle room to be able to do more. Give myself room. And I'll give a great example. In my journey of coming down from that 337 and climbing, I remember I gave myself this goal in 30 days. I'm going to be done with it. I'm going to be down 10 pounds. And I remember how hurt I was when the 30 days was up, but I only lost 8 pounds. Right. And I'm sitting here saying, oh my God, you're a failure. You know, and I'm going through the cabin. So instead of me cheering myself and saying, girl, hey, listen, you got those 8 off. You don't have to worry. I was back on the floor not eating these people's cookies. They're not paying me, so I ain't gonna mention their name. And I'm eating these people's cookies and I'm popping the tops till I can't stop, right? Right. Not realizing you should have took a moment to celebrate you lost 8. Right, exactly. When you had easily ballooned up to 137 and more. Mm-hmm. So learning that piece was a powerful piece. And then what I learned about myself is this gives me a chance to say, it's okay to have a plan and don't look for it to be all done at once. Right. It made me stop and say effort over outcome. Right. And that even works in the relationship piece. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you why. Because so many times we're doing this. They're not doing this like they used to do. But what's the effort? Right. Maybe they didn't give me the roses and all the big fanfare, but at least they heard the conversation.
Mhm.
At least they stopped and said, you know what? I can't do the roses and everything this time, but I'm going to at least give them quality time and find something that we can do.
Right. Wow.
I realized it's powerful because it's a big thing.
Mhm.
It's one of those things, like it's like having, how they say, big things come in small packages.
Yes.
That's exactly what that was for me.
Mm.
When I stopped looking for the whole outcome to happen at that moment and just started saying, this is a snack size portion. This is, you
Right.
got some effort here. It happened.
Right. Celebrating the small wins of each day. It's so
That's
important.
it.
And being appreciative, because if you're not appreciative and you keep going, it's like you're running the race. You're running. And
You're running, but you're standing still.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but usually if a person is running and standing still, are they getting anything accomplished?
Nope, they're not.
Not a thing.
They're getting more frustration. Yes.
There you go.
Definitely. One question that we have, and if anyone out there has any question, is relationship burnout.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Where you feel like someone's detaching or disconnecting from your partner. I mean, do you think that's necessary, that when someone does have that relationship burnout, is it normal, or they're exhausted about the relationship, or maybe it's not their fit, or what is it?
Relationship burnout doesn't necessarily mean that you're not the fit for that person.
Mm-hmm.
It just means that maybe you're not loving them the way they need to be loved from you. Many times when we try to love someone, we try to love them in the way we want to be loved.
Right.
And we don't realize that may not be their language at all.
Right.
And then we're saying, why is this not working? I feel like you're getting frustrated. So you're backing up and saying, this is not it.
Mm-hmm.
And the person is saying to you, I love you, but it's not in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to take time to really listen to what that looks like. And then a part of that is having those uncomfortable conversations. I think this society has done a great job of giving us the Cinderella complex. We all look for the guy to give us the shoe, and you're just going to get here and bibbidi bobbidi boo, it's going to be amazing, right? But nobody talks about the happily ever after when they say, and they live happily ever after. So what did that living happily ever look like?
Exactly.
What were the conversations? What did it look like when she went home and was like, listen, boo, I'm going to tie my hair up. I'm going to wear these sweats and we're going to make this work, or we're a little tight this month on money. What does that look like? Those are those conversations.
Right.
So,
and, yeah. And what I was also thinking, when she mentioned earlier, it's also boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
When you have this relationship burnout, many times you're not protecting, your partner's not protecting their boundary. And so whether you keep going and doing 50 million things, you're not respecting. There's that conversation needs to happen.
Not only are you disrespecting you and your partner, I want to give you a visual of it.
Okay.
It's you both being at a knife fight. And both of you are saying, but you didn't hear me. And you're cutting each other instead of saying, wait a minute, let's sit down, let's pause, let's figure out a plan so we can help each other come together and be that power couple that we want to be.
Right.
And it's not going to happen overnight. That's going to take time, conversation, and work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. And part of it goes all the way back to knowing yourself.
That's it.
Yeah. That's it. Knowing your own boundaries, you being able to speak up for yourself. Because we cannot just keep going. And one of the things you said earlier was, and I really need to make sure we drive this home, is sleep.
Oh, my gosh. So for me, my burnout turned into 10 good years of straight insomnia. And when I tell people, there is nothing like going for so long and not having sleep. It is the most detrimental thing. Do you realize, in quote unquote mental health terms, I was supposed to have been cracked on day 3, right? I was supposed to be seeing things, hearing things, the whole 9, right? However, my God protected me, and I know he did. But I'm going to tell you something I also noticed about that too. I had to figure out what's going on with me. Do I have a proper sleep schedule? Because a lot of us don't believe in that. A lot of us believe I go until I fall out and I pass out in the bed. That's not the proper way of getting sleep.
Right.
Am I the person who needs dark curtains? Am I the person who needs sound? Do I need ambient light? Do I need certain smells? What does that part look like? And for me, before I call it, before it became the hot girl of supplements, I did ashwagandha when it was nice, dirty, and brown and chalky. And I learned how to find what's those herbs that help me sleep and feel refreshed. Because so many of us go to bed. In my case, I wasn't going to bed. But in the case of when you go to bed, you wake up and you're drained. And it's nothing that you can do. Part of that is what's on your mind before you go to bed. I love to tell people, have a dump session. Write it out. Dump it out before you go to bed. Take it. Don't even put it in your room. Have your dump session in a different room of the house. That way it's not walking with you, following you in your bedroom.
Right.
The other piece of that is knowing for yourself, what does restful sleep look like? Because so many of us don't know. I got to be honest with you. When I had the first night of restful sleep, oh my gosh, that was like a brand new baby born. Because it was amazing. Like that was the day I realized how they say, and you sleep like a baby. I was like, that was it. I knew what that was like.
Yes.
I was every muscle was in place. I felt wonderful. I didn't have those nasty black circles under my eyes. I had a joy, and then guess what? I wasn't irritable anymore. Because that's how it affects us. You wonder why that co-worker's a little grumpy and carrying on. They're not sleeping properly, or somebody ain't helping them go to sleep properly. Let me say it that way.
Right. Because, when you don't sleep, this is my analogy. When you don't sleep, it's like when you're awake, you have workers that are keeping your eyes open and all that kind of stuff. When you go to sleep, that's when your repairers come in and put things back in. When you don't sleep, the inside of you looks like, I don't know if you've ever been to like TJ Maxx or one of those stores on a Black Friday.
Oh, yeah.
It's all over. That's what happens. And so when you don't sleep, you can't like remember where my stuff was. Like I said earlier, when I know, and I'm usually a good sleeper, when I know I haven't slept is when I can't find stuff in my house.
You have the forgetful piece. You know what's another one people don't realize when they're not getting good sleep? They're grinding their teeth. So you're doing all the dental care and you're flossing and you're brushing and you're doing the cold pulling, all that great stuff. But your dentist is still saying to you, I still see cracks. You're grinding your teeth at night. Another one people don't get is you get to the point, and a lot of people don't get it. Another part is blood pressure.
Yes.
And that's the one, let's really be honest, that's the one that can take you out of here faster than anything.
Right. That can give you
because that's it. Didn't realize it attributes to sleep. A lot of us don't think about that because we just figure, oh, it's what I eat. All of it works together.
Right. And so if you're out there and if you're seeing, the other thing I think we should also be responsible, well, not responsible, but if we see a person and our loved ones are struggling, say something. You know what I'm saying? Like I was visiting my daughter this weekend and stuff, and I was over her house and stuff. But then I could tell her tired eyes. I mean, she's 28, but I knew it was time for me to leave for her to get some sleep. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and let's be honest, that's a part of that family culture when it comes to burnout, because we want to host you. We want you to be there. We want you to feel welcome. We don't want you to feel like you're not here. But I'm doing all of this. I've made this immaculate meal. I've done all of this, but I haven't taken time for myself.
Right.
And you see that a lot. You see that around Thanksgiving. So you have mom or dad, whoever the cook is in your home, and they're doing all of this. They're not getting rested, and they can't enjoy the same holiday that they have made the full spread for everybody else.
Right. And then people stay forever and forever at the house. Yeah.
Maybe I'm doing something wrong. They don't stay like that no more. I've learned to be like, hey, we're not doing it.
Yes, good. But ways to and so could you share with our audience what are ways to decrease on burnout and also to state out, hey, I'm tired, I'm burnout, to be an advocate for ourselves?
So a great way to help yourself is taking those pauses, little small breaks. It doesn't keep you any good. It doesn't do you any good to keep running. Taking those little small pauses, putting that plan together and being honest with yourself. I know people think planning is such an old fuddy-duddy thing, but plans allow you to be successful. And anything worth having, you got to put some plans into it. And then being honest with yourself and saying, I'm going to put this into action. I'm not trying to conquer it all in one day. I'm having little moments, little things I need to conquer. I should be able to be joyful in my day. And there's nothing wrong with it. Then I need a purpose buddy. I need a power up purpose buddy who's going to be honest with me and say, hey, just like you had to check in with your daughter over the weekend, you need somebody in your circle that's good enough and bold enough. Let me say that, because they can be good enough, but they need to be bold enough to say, hey, what's really going on with you?
Right.
I'm noticing some stuff. You okay? Let's talk about it. And then when we talk about let's talk about it, not just talking about it once, but making that a part of that guy check-in, that girlfriend check-in. I find that women, we're good at doing those check-ins for our sis, right? We're good at that. Men are not. And here's the problem. When your man is not good with them having those check-in moments, then you wonder why he's coming at you snapping. Right. Because he doesn't have that power up buddy who's saying, hey, bro, you okay?
Right.
Hey, I see something. Then knowing what paradise looks like for you. I think we're so caught up in this space where we think paradise looks like it has to be everybody else's dream. Like, I'll give an example. Everybody's big on this, make your 100 grand in 30 days. Okay, but wait a minute. But what about the person who just started their business and was bold enough to say, you know what? I got my paperwork in order.
Right.
I got my first client. That's a victory. I'm not, your paradise, my paradise may look totally different. That's one part. Those are your little steps to help you come out of that burnout. Then let's talk about what's some things you can do. In your daily day, look at how you start your morning. I know for me, that was a big thing. I felt like every morning I got up, one of my favorite things when I was a little kid was the roller skate. And I'm going to age myself real bad right now. So if you remember Strawberry Shortcake, that was one of the big things in that era, right? And she would be on her skate and she'd be rolling. And that was me. And I felt like when I was going through everything in life, I was on those roller skates. And the one thing I didn't realize was I was going so good. At first, it started out fun and it felt like freedom. But later it became captivity in a prison that I created myself.
Okay.
So I had to learn to pause some stuff. Stop. The other piece of that is in those moments, what am I doing? Does it bring me joy? Or is it an obligation?
Oh, wow.
Because so many times we do stuff and it's really an obligation. There's no joy in it. Have you ever been, and I'll give an example. Have you ever been in a Lyft, or I'm going to age myself again. Have you ever been in a Lyft, Uber, or a cab, and you get a driver who really don't want to be there?
Right. Yep.
How does that feel? That's not something I want.
No.
A great tip is check your joy meter.
Right.
How are you starting your mornings? What are you doing to get yourself into that morning to make you flow properly? Whether that's reading your word, reading the Bible, whether it's reading a devotional, whether it's speaking affirmations, whether it's just taking a moment to have some quiet for yourself before the world gets busy. That's an important piece. Another great step, what are you putting in your mouth? Let's just really be honest.
Right, that's true.
Because
junky food makes junky people, as my grandma used to say.
But here's a great one. My grandma used to always tell me, either you're going to pay the grocer or the doctor. Who do you prefer to write the check to?
Right, exactly.
And here's what we don't get. If you don't take this time to feed yourself and fuel yourself for life,
right,
you're not going to have the life you want.
Exactly, yeah.
So making sure you're taking those moments. I know everybody's not a broccoli girl. I get it. It took me to grow there. But guess what? It helped me to see. When I feel better, I can do more without being burned out. Because I have the energy. Other things you can do to help yourself with your energy. If you are anemic, go and get checked. How many men and women I've heard say, oh, I think I got low iron, but I'm not worried about that. Well, guess what? If you're not worried about it, it's going to show up and tell you how to worry about it.
Right, exactly.
Go and have those necessary tests. And then note this, everything does not have to have a pill attached. There are liquid vitamins that you can do that will give you the boost for your day.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize it. Mood swings, vitamin D, your vitamin Bs, your ashwagandha for that great, nice sleep.
Right.
Or maybe a boost in the morning to have that little extra energy, a little turmeric in your coffee. For those who drink coffee. But those are those pieces for you. And then being honest with yourself. And this is where you have to go and get in the mirror and say, okay, self, am I here pushing or am I enjoying?
Right. Right. And another one I would say is working out.
Oh, man.
I mean, I know it's hard. I have to get up in the morning to do it, but it does make a difference in how I show up.
Yes, it does. Do you realize that there's a survey statistic, 54% of people who did it for 30 days, since everybody loves their 30 days, saw a difference in how they felt just with a 15-minute walk for 30 days.
Wow.
I'm not talking about getting hardcore and we benching out and all this. I'm talking about 15 minutes. We all got 15 minutes.
Exactly. Wow. You've brought in so much.
You don't have to work out hard.
Right.
You just got to work out to a space that you like.
Right. You just got to move the body. That's all it is. Just moving the body, moving things around, just moving the body, producing more energy in many aspects. Well, Patrice, this has been wonderful. Yeah. So people out there listening and they're like, how can I get to know her? How can I contact her? Please let us know. How can we get to know you?
So how can you get to know me? So I am in the moment revamping my YouTube page, and I love to give what I call morning hugs. I love to give an empowering word, either biblically or something that just drops in my spirit in the morning and says, hey, share that out. So you can catch me on YouTube with those. Another way you can connect with me is on the website at the 3smovement.com. You can always come over there and find something great. We're adding up more blogs. We're putting in blogs. We're adding some videos. I want to make sure that when you hear this voice, it's not just this voice for the moment, but that I kind of walk with you and become that little friend that says, hey, let me check on you. How you feeling today? I want to be that friend for you.
Wow, wonderful. Thank you so much. And you're welcome to be on the show anytime.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was an absolute blast. I had an amazing time.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you. Okay.
Join Vacation Counseling on the Christian Couples Retreat, September 13th through the 18th of 2024. Enter into a deeper connection with God and love and honor each other passionately in God's love. Dr. April Brown, intimacy and sex therapist and author of Improving Intimacy, and Dr. Jason Prendergast, licensed clinical pastoral counselor and reality TV show therapist, will lead you through Christian-based relationship and intimacy therapy, the Gottman Method, temperate therapy, group and private couples counseling, and enjoy intimate vows exchange, dancing, and boating excursions. For more information, call 239-565-6921. Book your Christian Couples Retreat today at vacationcounseling.com. Ignite the passion in your marriage.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show. We just had a wonderful conversation with Patrice Brantley on burnout. And if you're out there listening and you're like, wow, that was I learned a lot. And burnout, when you're burning out, you're not really honoring you. You're really like putting yourself to the side. And you have to remember that people will treat you the way you treat yourself. So definitely, if you missed it, continue back to listen to it, and definitely follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Well, let me tell you what else is coming up. Next week, we'll be doing Nerves of Steel with Linda Steele. And then the following week after that, on September 21st, we'll talk about My Family Doesn't Approve of Him. September 28th, we're going to talk about old family versus new family. And in October 5th, we'll be talking dating theory, let it be. So this has been the Bringing Intimacy Back show. Please like it or subscribe us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we will see you guys next week. Take care. Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.